Hiya, I'm Jasper, and welcome to your video review for Bedknobs and Broomsticks. It's a movie starring a whole bunch of people that I don't know from anything else, and probably never will, and Angela Lansbury, who was Mrs. Potts from Beauty and the Beast, the animated one. So, as always, I'm going to give you the good, the bad, and the furry. To start with the furry, do you remember the animated movie Robin Hood? A whole bunch of those assets are in this film, and there's also a really mangy cat who doesn't ever say anything, but is in this film and has like quite a personality to it. So, moving on to the good and the bad. So this movie was made in like the early 70s, I think, and I think that it doesn't know what it wants to be, because I think that it has a little bit too heavy of material for perhaps the audience that I feel like it's going for. I feel like it's going for very kids level audience. And there isn't a whole lot, I think, for adults to really have fun with and appreciate. Unlike, current day and last past many years of Disney where it's for kids, but the adults can have a good time too. I don't really, and maybe it's a generational thing, but I don't really feel like they made it that way. It seemed like it was just very much for kids. But some of the material that they go into, this is set in 1940s when World War II is going on, and there's Nazis that try and invade, type of thing. And so the kids are having to move from London to out in these other areas, and there's just more involvement and mention and discussion and the warfare of the Nazi things, which I think is a little heavy for the audience that they're going for, and some of the just action that takes place, I think is a little heavy. But it's also really hard to jive with this film, because there's like a 20-minute sequence where they go into an animated realm, like a cartoon animation, so like 2D animation. And I get that this was made in the 70s, so it's not like they could have gone into a 3D animated realm. I get that. But I have never been a fan of trying to integrate live action actors and 2D animation, because I just feel that it never clicks for me. It always makes one, the other, or both of them look very fake, and it highlights the problems and the differences that each one of them has when you have them both on screen together. And that I think is very evident in the animated sequence here. On top of the fact that I realized that this came out before the animated Robin Hood, but pretty much all of the anthropomorphic animals in this were they look exactly like the animated animals in Robin Hood. They reuse all of the animation and the assets and just how exactly they look. And it's a little weird because it's sort of I don't know, having a Pikachu that's just playing a Pikachu and not Ash's Pikachu, I guess, if you will. I don't know. I found it very distracting for me after having such fond memories of the animated Robin Hood to just see generic use of these assets. I don't know. It's weird. It felt weird to me. The other thing is that some of the relationships just seemed a little forced. The three kids, and they come along to go to whatever Angela Lansbury's character's name is, to her house because the World War II is trying to they're trying to move the kids out of London, so the government's you have to take them. And it's so weird, the pacing on this sometimes, because she rolls up in her little motorcycle thing with a sidecar, and then she comes in to get something from the post office, and then the person's hey, I just need to talk to you for a second. So she's okay, what is it? Well, you'll have to take these kids. Well, that's quite out of the question. Okay, but the government says you have to. Let me see that. Reads it for split second. All right, very well, have them come along. You just said it was out of the question, and clearly from your demeanor and the whole setup of the scene, you are not a kids person. You need to have the house to yourself. But not even reading it for 2 seconds, you're oh, conflict resolved. Yes, let's go, and I guess I'll take them, and everything will be fine. So, and then some of the relationship, the relationship between her and the guy that they meet in London or whatever, it just seems so forced. It's not that they didn't have good chemistry. I think that their chemistry was fine, I guess. It wasn't offensive. But just the genesis of how the relationship started, where he is just a con man, and yet somehow they end up having a positive relationship. I just don't think that's a great foundation. And then also, like, the kids go from, like, immediately from, like, they get there and immediately the oldest kid is like, I see that she's a witch. I'm gonna blackmail her. Hey, you're gonna give us money, we're gonna let us do our own thing, and we're gonna do this, that, and the other thing, and just like really, really douchey things, like just real douchey things that he is just like gonna take advantage of all this situation. He's gonna blackmail the fuck out of her. And then like I don't know, 5 minutes later, he's just like willing to fight to the death for her, and just like, oh, she's the best and everything else. Like, the change-roos that happen here, I don't know. And then there's this whole setup sequence where they're looking for something, and then, oh, it just turns out it's not there, and then, oh, we could have solved it. And I don't think that the kids' acting was the worst any more than the rest of the acting, because I just feel like it's the type of movie, again, designed for, like, kids, where the acting is just very overly done, Mrs. Whatever, type of thing. And so the kids are acting at that level, which, if the others weren't acting at that level, it would be distracting, but at this point, it's just par for the course for how everything's going on in this film. The CGI, this was made in the 70s, so there wasn't any CGI. It was all just basically hand-painted over for live-action things. It's a product of the times. I think that, it's not any worse or better than other instances of this type of animation, but I couldn't connect with the story. I didn't like the characters. It was just a lot of overdone things. It's just, I'm trying to think of another movie where things were just overly done and too kid-like with nothing for adults, and I can't really think of any right now. But it was not an enjoyable time. And then also, it was a good 30 minutes into the film before they had their first song. So this is ostensibly a musical, but they're 30 minutes in before they have their first song, and then it's quite big gaps. Like, I would say that there was only a small handful of songs, so it was weird because, and maybe it's just a generational thing, but when I think of a musical, I think of like songs. Like maybe you start with a song and then you have some song, but there was only a handful, and again, started 30 minutes in before suddenly, now we're in a musical. Okay, now we're back to not being, and then 10 minutes later, so now there's another song. Now this is song time, but there's a whole bunch of instances where you could have had song time and you didn't have song time. But now, for reasons unclear, this is now song time again. I didn't care for it. And the last whole battle sequence, I think, was definitely a sign of the technology available, or maybe the budget available with the technology available. They just, it felt really long. It felt really long in a not fun way. So I'm going to give this movie thumbs down. If you watched it as a kid and maybe you have some nostalgia for it, I hope that you still enjoy it today, but maybe if you haven't seen it in a while, maybe don't watch it, because I think your rose-colored glasses may make you think it's better than it actually is. So thumbs down from me, but that's all I have for this one. Thanks for coming. Thanks for watching. Hope to see you at the next one. Bye.